militants for killing coalition forces in Afghanistan, including American troops, amid the peace talks to end the long-running war there, according to officials briefed on the matter. So yeah, they were just starting to... Here's the thing about this. Here is the thing that I don't get about this story, because this story, it smells fishy to me from the very get-go. Because think about this. If you look at the news, you pay attention also to the news recently, you would be seeing, of course, that they are, in fact... getting close to a peace deal and trying to finally get the hell out of this longest war in American history, which is, of course, Afghanistan. They have had a huge 20-year war there. It's been a mess. It's been disastrous. It's probably been a huge, just if the Iraq war hadn't been going on kind of parallel to it for a little bit, it would have been probably one of the biggest foreign policy disasters, but of course the Iraq war puts that all, it makes it all seem small, to be quite honest with you, nowadays. But yeah, this story, it is, the war was winding down after 20 years. We were feeling like we were somewhat kind of close to getting out of it. And what do we know? Speaking of the Iraq war, this kind of this story gives it a nice callback. Intelligent, very, very thinly sourced material in the New York Times talking about issues of national intelligence, like, can we get more Iraq war, Judy Miller, weapons of mass destruction, tubes, nuclear tubes in it, it's the same kind of faulty intelligence they're returning to again. This story here that you see by Charlie Savage, Eric Schmidt, and Michael Schwartz, very poorly sourced. There isn't a lot of sourcing on this from what we know. It has been, we've seen that time and time again. Let's see. I'm seeing if we can find the officials said. Let's see how many officials they reference here. The officials said several American officials. Yeah, so we just know it's officials. We're not getting too much about this. The sourcing isn't very good, and all of a sudden we hear this this devastating story that Trump is letting Putin get away with killing U.S. troops. Wouldn't the best solution, first of all, be that why are the troops there in the first place? We don't even know. We've sent troops there for 20 years now, achieved absolutely nothing. The situation is, again, almost as bad as it was when we came in there 20 years ago in the wake of 9/11. It is almost as bad, if not rapidly approaching that situation in terms of the Taliban, in terms of in terms of their power in the region. It is almost as bad. And of course, the Washington Post reported a bunch on this at the end of last year, and nobody talked about it. But of course, they talked about this story because what is the response here? What is the rational response if you're saying they're getting Russian troops are killing American troops in a war? If you're reporting that with this level of outrage, what is the rational response here? You want to beef up and escalate again the war in Afghanistan, and you want to make it 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, maybe even 100 years at this rate. There have been neocons out there that said, yes, we should be in Afghanistan for 100 years forever. It's going to be our new, we have to now at this point get involved in the world because our military, it's just the way we should work. That is now the quickly becoming one of the key principal arguments for the neocon sect of conservatism and conservative politics. That's becoming very fast their main position, and that is the rational response to this. This is a provocation. This is what they're implying here. They want to see an escalation. They want to see further war, and they want to also score political points by attacking Trump for it. Even though, what is he supposed to do? Can you imagine? Aren't Russian troops supposed to kill American troops? Are Taliban supposed to kill American troops? It's a war here. These are foreign powers and in national interest. You're in conflict here. The troops are going head to head. What? Am I missing something here? Isn't this what normal? Don't troops die when you send them into wars? Isn't that one of the consequences of war that we should be trying to avoid at all costs? Right? Am I going crazy here? I really don't think I am. But still, we are getting this response, and this pop out of a story. I think in part because it's election year, And in part because this is winding down. And of course, back to Lincoln Project here, they went crazy over this. And really just pretty much like my thesis is like these are the exact kind of people, these Iraq war pushers, people like who leads the Lincoln. I'm just going to cursory Google search here. George Conway. I don't know too much about his history. Steve Schmidt, George Bush supporter, Iraq war supporter. John Weaver, Rick Wilson, both Iraq war supporters. Ron Steslow, Reed Galen, Mike Madrid. I don't really know too much about them. And they're not people who should be on any kind of liberal side. They still, again, they say they have deep policy differences with National Democrats. Like that is something very much part of the equation here. Like we should take this into consideration. But they have deep policy differences with National Democrats. We know that for sure. And they want to see more war. They supported the Iraq war, and they are pushing this story out in the way that it is. And I think there's a good chance that even the New York Times reporting is maybe lacking in, shall we say, accuracy. I think we'll find that a little bit more about that out when kind of the truth comes. But I think all in all, this is a story being used by these people to push more war and also, if they can, score some cheap political points off of President Trump. So let's take a look at that. So go back to Twitter. We can just play it in the browser. I don't know.
In the last year, flag-draped coffins have returned from Afghanistan.
And none more should return. We should leave.
Now we know Vladimir Putin pays a bounty for the murder of American soldiers. Donald Trump knows too, and does nothing. Putin pays the Taliban cash to slaughter our men and women in uniform. And Trump is silent, weak, controlled. Instead of condemnation, he insists Russia be treated as our equal. Instead of retaliation, he invites Putin to America. When Trump tells you he stands by the troops, he's right. Just not our troops.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I mean, like, really, like, again, talk of, like, retaliation here, like, trying to escalate the war. Why don't we just leave? United States troops, United States men and women should never have been put in this situation in the first place, and it's a disgrace that they were. So, yeah. And, of course, they did go pretty crazy. Of course, the response to Trump's tweet on this saying, nobody briefed me or told me, the vice president or the chief of staff, about the so-called attacks on our troops in Afghanistan by Russians as reported through a anonymous source by the fake news New York Times. Everybody is denying it, and there have not been many attacks on us. Nobody's been tougher on Russia than the Trump administration, which, I mean, again, to a large part, he is in some way talking true. He has pursued incredibly hawkish, incredibly aggressive policies on Russia that get no coverage because it doesn't fit the narrative. Of course, like the response there on the top is, oh no, I'm sorry. The answers we were looking for was one soldier lost, it's too many, and I'll find out what happened. Thank you to your intelligence agencies for protecting those who defend our freedom. You lose control of the presidency. That's a dumb tweet. The president's attacking the New York Times, but not Putin. And then it's treason, but 45 instead of the A and the S. So, yeah. All war is bad, but the Lincoln Project still sucks because they're Republicans who would be very happy. Again, this is the key part. These people are Republicans, and they would be very happy if Trump started an entire actual war with Russia, which would be very bad. This is what these people are trying to do. They're calling out the president for bringing death onto certain soldiers by calling for the death of other soldiers in a real and actual war. That is their end game here, and that is why, folks, the Lincoln Project sucks. The Lincoln Project cannot be trusted, and if you see any of these people on cable news, just a reminder, they are not your friends, and you should spit in their faces because they're awful warmongers. And again, I repeat, they are not your friends. Yeah, I think I said that pretty well there. All right, so that is all we got for you today. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back on Monday, but of course, New Uncultured Friday and Friday night and Friday midnight, we will have coming your way the series finale of That's Interesting. We're talking Veep, final episode of Veep, baby. Going to be a lot of fun.